Every so often, a story drops that makes gun owners stop and do a double take. This time, it's not a politician or an anti-gun group making headlines. It's Glock. Yes, the same Glock that built its reputation as one of the most trusted handgun makers in the world has now been caught asking state lawmakers to push for more gun control. That's right. In Oklahoma, a letter surfaced showing Glock Inc. voicing support for legislation targeting so-called machine gun conversion devices, better known as Glock switches. Now, nobody disputes that these illegal devices exist or that criminals abuse them. But here's the shocker. Instead of simply standing behind existing laws, Glock openly urged a pro-Second Amendment state to pass new restrictions mirroring federal statutes. So the question is, what exactly is Glock doing here? Is this about brand protection, legal pressure, or maybe even something bigger, like positioning themselves for future government contracts? Tonight, we're breaking it all down. The letter, the backlash, and what it means when one of the biggest names in the firearms industry is seen siding with new gun laws. On August 19, 2025, a letter landed on the desk of Representative David Hardin, chair of the Oklahoma House Public Safety Committee. Hardin isn't just any politician. He's a staunch defender of the Second Amendment, a retired sheriff, and someone well known in pro-gun circles. That's what made this letter all the more surprising. The letter came straight from Glock Inc., signed by their CEO and general counsel. In it, Glock applauded Hardin's leadership on public safety, but then went further, openly supporting new state legislation to criminalize possession, sale, or use of machine gun conversion devices, commonly called Glock switches. The letter emphasized that Glock doesn't make these devices, doesn't endorse them, and has actively fought against them by taking down websites, issuing cease and desist letters, and working with federal agencies like Homeland Security and Customs to block imports, especially from China. In other words, Glock wanted to make it crystal clear. These switches are not their product, not their problem, and they want lawmakers to slam the door shut on them. They even urged Oklahoma to follow the lead of 27 other states that already have laws targeting MCDs, arguing that state-level enforcement would give local prosecutors more tools to go after offenders instead of relying solely on federal cases. On the surface, it reads like a standard corporate position paper, protecting the brand, distancing the company from illegal devices, and showing they're a responsible partner in public safety. But here's the catch. By calling for new legislation, Glock isn't just defending its reputation. They're effectively asking for an expansion of state-level gun control, something that doesn't sit well with the very customers who built the Glock brand in the first place. The reaction to Glock's letter was immediate and intense. Representative Hardin himself, a man with a long record of defending the Second Amendment, wasn't convinced. His position was simple. Making a gun full auto without the proper licensing is already illegal under federal law. Why add another state statute on top of it? To him, more laws don't stop criminals. They just add new layers of infringement for everyone else. Gun rights advocates in Oklahoma, including groups like OK2A, echoed that sentiment. They pointed out that criminals intent on illegally converting guns aren't going to be stopped by another piece of legislation. What this does, instead, is normalize the idea that every time there's misuse of a firearm or accessory, the answer is more laws, even when existing laws already cover the behavior. And here's why it matters. Glock isn't just another company. They're one of the most recognized names in the firearms industry worldwide. When a brand with that kind of influence calls for more restrictions, it sends a signal, not just to lawmakers, but to the entire firearms community. It raises questions. Is Glock aligning with politicians to protect its business interests? Are they trying to appease regulators in the middle of lawsuits targeting gun makers? Or, as some speculate, are they angling for favor in future military or government contracts? For gun owners, the optics are terrible. The company's name has already become synonymous with these illegal switches. People literally call them Glock switches, even though Glock has nothing to do with manufacturing them. But instead of simply educating the public or standing firm on the principle that shall not be infringed means shall not be infringed, Glock chose to go on record pushing for new legislation. That choice has left many in the gun community asking whether one of their most trusted brands just crossed a line. What makes this story so significant isn't just one letter to one lawmaker, it's what it represents about the relationship between the firearms industry, the government, and the people who actually buy and carry these guns. On one side, you've got Glock, a company with massive brand power, a long history of supplying law enforcement and militaries around the world, and a vested interest in protecting its reputation. From a corporate standpoint, it makes sense. They don't want their name tied to illegal machine gun switches. They want regulators, prosecutors, and the public to see Glock as a responsible partner. That's classic corporate risk management. But here's the problem. When gun manufacturers start endorsing new laws, even for niche issues like conversion devices, it sets a precedent. It opens the door for more companies to distance themselves from anything controversial by throwing their weight behind additional restrictions. And every time that happens, the Second Amendment loses ground. This isn't the first time we've seen industry and politics collide. Remember when major banks and shipping companies tried to cut off firearms retailers? Or when other manufacturers hedged their positions after lawsuits were filed against the industry? There's always pressure on these companies to play ball with lawmakers in order to protect their bottom line. The danger is that the people who end up paying the price aren't criminals. It's law-abiding citizens. Once the idea takes root that even iconic gun companies are comfortable with just one more law, politicians will keep pushing for more. Today, it's switches. Tomorrow, it could be magazines, optics, or rifles themselves. At the end of the day, this isn't just about Glock's letter. It's about whether the firearms industry will stand firm on principle, or whether big names will start making compromises that erode the rights of the very customers who keep them in business. At the end of the day, Glock's letter puts the gun community in a tough spot. On paper, they're targeting an issue everyone agrees is a problem: illegal conversion devices. But the way they went about it, asking lawmakers to create more state-level restrictions, sends the wrong message. It suggests that when pressure builds, even a legendary firearms brand is willing to trade principle for optics. Let's be real here. Criminals already breaking federal law aren't going to stop because Oklahoma adds another statute. The only people who feel the weight of new laws are law-abiding gun owners, and history proves it. Every common-sense restriction ends up being used to justify the next one, while crime stays the same. Glock says it's about protecting their brand, and maybe that's true. Maybe it's also about lawsuits, government contracts, or trying to look cooperative to regulators. But for the people who actually buy their pistols, carry them for defense, and trust them with their lives, the optics are terrible. You can't market yourself as a champion of reliability and responsibility while asking the government to add more infringements to the books. This whole situation is a reminder that the fight for the Second Amendment isn't just in the courts or the state houses. It's in the boardrooms, too. Gun owners need to keep a close eye not just on politicians, but on the companies that profit from our loyalty. Because when corporations start signaling that new laws are acceptable, it chips away at the foundation of our rights one piece at a time. And here's the question. If Glock, of all companies, is willing to take that step, who's next? So here's where we are. Glock, one of the biggest names in the firearms world, just put its signature on a letter asking a pro-Second Amendment state to pass more gun laws. Whether you see that as brand protection, corporate survival, or flat-out betrayal, one thing is clear. It's a bad look for a company that owes its success to gun owners who expect better. The bigger issue isn't just this one letter. It's the precedent it sets. If major gun companies start normalizing the idea of just one more law, then the political class will take that ball and run with it. And the folks who end up paying the price won't be the criminals, it'll be you and me. So let's talk about it. Should gun makers ever weigh in on legislation that chips away at the Second Amendment? Or should their role be simple? Build reliable firearms, stand by their customers, and stay out of the business of calling for new laws? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I want to hear what you think. And as always, make sure you like, subscribe, and share this video to keep more people in the loop on these critical issues. Stay informed, stay prepared, and above all, stay sharp.